Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. Wayne's World Part 1 edition of On the Ice, brought to you by Dokesville Fuels, Case Financial Group, Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, and of course, our friends at Toby Hockey. Wayne, busy week so far. Great to see you again. How's the weekend and the early part of this week started for you?
It's been pretty good, I think, Theo. The weather's fantastic now. Playoffs are starting. Like I say, it's next to Christmas, the favorite time of year.
It's getting exciting. And I think it's not just here in Manitoba, but it's all over Canada as well as down in the States too. I mean, shout out to Shattuck, St. Mary's, and all the teams down in there. They were finishing up their U17 national development stuff, and there's some good hockey down there. But that doesn't go to show that we've got some terrible hockey north of the border. We've got some good guys going on here. Before we get to the playoff rounds and the playoff action out west, let's talk about last night with Ryan Ginter and scouting for intangibles real quick, Wayne. Great conversation with Ryan, well connected, kind of found his calling, if you would say, indirectly thinking, I'll do the scouting thing on the side, but he's got quite a good resume built working with not just the Winnipeg Ice of the Western Hockey League, but just a lot of great insight on what players, parents should expect and what teams are looking for from a scouting perspective. So fill us in.
Yeah, well, I guess the event was our Trailblazer Hockey Education webinar, and we do these once a month for all of our clients and a few guests. And last night's topic, I still got the book here that we're talking about, Scouting for Intangibles by Ryan Ginter, who is got a master's in sports psychology, a couple of undergraduate degrees and stuff, a well-educated guy. And kind of as you alluded to, Theo, was a guy that moved on into the corporate world and sounded like he had a pretty good job, but just wasn't happy. And so when he started to move away into scouting and started to study the theory behind scouting, he fell in love with it. And, like they always say, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And I get a sense that that's the way Ryan Ginter is today. So Ryan spoke to our guests, and we had about, I'm going to estimate about 150 people attend the webinar last night, which is fantastic. They're growing each and every month. And, lots of positive feedback. And, like I say, I welcome your comments. What did you think of it? And what did you?
You know what? I was first off surprised that it wasn't his passion to start off with. And like you said, indirectly finding that calling for starters, and just how much he focused on the importance of, when the eyes may not be on you per se, but somebody's always watching.
Mm-hmm.
There is always someone making record or keeping an eye and making sure that, obviously we're human. We make mistakes. We're not pristine. We're not lustered. But more often than not, it's what we see off of the ice, how we see you handle your matters, and how you are that individual but team player. Those are the factors that I looked at what Ryan was talking about last night, and how you and I have alluded to before, how imperative it is for a player and parents to have not such high standards, but to realize there is something they have to hold themselves to. They have to be accountable for their actions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, along those similar themes, one of the story that probably a lot of our listeners will connect with and stuff, because it's a young Winnipeg Ice player, Zach Benson, when Ryan kind of alluded to the fact, players got to have a passion for the game. And if they don't, chances are they're going to suffer burnout, because, when you get to this level, you're in the rink and in the gym pretty much constantly. And if you don't love it, again, it's work, and that's not going to be successful. But he talked about Zachary Benson as an example, and it relates to Zach's parents. And, he stresses the importance of the parents in nurturing the player and the types of conversations they have at home. And, it's usually the good conversation should be about, teamwork, working hard, leadership, not scoring goals, not scoring points and stuff like that. And then he went on to say that, he loves Zach's parents, because they're the guys, him and the dad and the mom are in the crowd having a couple beers, enjoying the game, and that's just the greatest thing. And that's the way I like to, look at my son's career too. It's just take it all in, man. It's a honor to be, watching your kid play at that level and have a couple beers and, versus kind of going crazy trying to, teach the kid to do things that maybe the coach not wanting them to do, and teach them all these individual things and stuff like that. So I found that pretty enlightening.
It was very good. And I also enjoyed the fact that you had Nevin Marquardt come at the end, and something he said that just rang like a massive bell in my head at the top of the hour. And there's a lot more ties than wins and losses in life. And when you look at the perspective of what hockey brings to you from a character, from a personality, from a lifelong journey through this world, yeah, it can be a big part, but it certainly shouldn't be the big point of your entire life career. And I thought that was really important and special from Nevin to speak about that at the end of the webinar last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Nevin, he's always got some good insights. Like I say, he's a pretty smart dude and an academic, and he really studies things like that. And so, yeah, it's great and always good when he jumps in.
Quick plug for the book, exactly. Scouting for Intangibles. Ryan Ginter, great cover. You'll find it at Amazon.ca. I checked it out just now. It's also in Kindle books for your e-readers as well. And you can find it at indigo.ca and at local bookstores. So do check it out if that is something you are interested in. And of course, any insight you'd like to give Wayne or myself, we'd love to hear it because we'd like to hear your feedback too. Let's move into the exciting part. Not that that wasn't exciting, but we've got some serious matchups happening here, Wayne. And I had to do a little bit of homework because there's different formats. I mean, there's 8 teams involved in the MJ and the SJ, so that's not a big deal. But the division setup for the Alberta Junior has all the teams pretty much playing, but some of them have 5 or 6 games already under. Some of them have 2. The MJ hasn't even started. So where do you want to start with this one, Wayne?
Well, let's start where they've started, I guess. Let's start in the AJ, I guess. They're kind of underway. And, the key points that I got out of, they've completed the first round of the playoffs already. So a couple of big upsets. And I'm a big believer that there's always 1 or 2 big upsets in that first round. And it's, often because the teams that are near the top, maybe burn themselves out a bit through the regular season and push too hard. And then they get to the playoffs and their first seed and they take on the 8 seeds. They go, oh, okay, we can kind of take a break. This one, we're just going to fly it through. And more often than not, it seems like that lower seed knocks off somebody. And that's what happened. Canmore knocked off Drumheller. No, sorry. Canmore dropped off Camrose. There's too many C's. And so that was a big upset. Canmore was not favored at all. And, so again, that was good. They knocked him off in 7 games. And then Calgary pushed Drumheller to 6 games, which is a real shocker, So there was some great series there. Lots of feedback from the players we represent in that league that there was great crowds, lively crowds in the stands. And, the players just love that. I mean, it makes it so much enjoyable even for the players, but certainly for the fans in the stands too. So, they're well on the way in the second round, and things are kind of going as expected in the early parts of the second round, but that's kind of the AJ update.
Yep, and then we'll quickly get into the SJ. The SJ is also underway in round 1. All 3 of the 4 series are tied up 1-1. I mean, Estevan and Humboldt finishing pretty much, they're finishing as in the top 20 CJHL rankings, but they're tied 1-1 with their teams. Estevan's tied up with Notre Dame. Notre Dame tied it up in a thriller in overtime. I saw the highlight on that one, a great shot from the point. And then Humboldt and La Ronche tied up 1 as well. Flin Flon down 2-0 to Battleford. I don't know if that's a surprise to you, but I mean, both teams are, heavy teams. I guess Flin Flon doesn't have the finesse they normally have. They don't have the scorer with 60 points. A lot of guys, 30s to 40 points, but down 2 games to none. What are your thoughts on the series you've seen so far, Wayne?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, same thing we talked about, the number 1 seed taking the 8 seed lightly. And I think that's what happened in the case of Estevan versus Notre Dame. They probably thought it was point night. They're going to sweep this out in 4 because their 2 teams aren't even close at all. And, I suspect going forward now, it might end up in 5 type thing because Estevan got an eye opener there. As far as Thunder Bay, Humboldt and La Ronche. That one's not that surprising because old Kevin Kaminsky there, Killer Kaminsky, kind of had the Ronge going near the end. And certainly I know Humboldt would have probably much preferred to get Notre Dame in that first round. And, La Ronge come in there and took game 2. And the first game was a battle too. It came right down to the end. So that series is going to be a battle. And that's the 2 versus 7 series. And then the 3 versus 6 is Melfort and Yorkton, and they split. And so, again, that's going to be a battle. I still see Melfort coming out of there. And, the last one you talked about was North Battleford and Flin Flon. They were the 4 or 5 teams. So, it's always close there. Flin Flon has been stronger in the past, but, they finished 5th in the league. So not overly great. And Battleford's got a good young team with some solid veterans there. And I suspect when they go up into Flin Flon, there can be some tough matches and could quite likely come back tied 2-2 for the next games in Battlefords.
You talk about teams that are hot right now, and no team can be hotter as we move a little bit east into the MJ. Steinbach had a 12-game winning streak coming into the playoffs, and they finally creeped their way into the top 10 of the CJHL final rankings. They took the 1 seed. They're playing in the East Division, taking on the Selkirk Steelers. Do you feel bad for Selkirk facing a team, or do you see them just being, we got a chance to prove something here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still going to put my money on Steinbach. They got a pretty strong team there, and they're going to be hard to beat. But I think Selker's going to take a chunk of meat out of Steinbach, and hopefully Steinbach doesn't take them lightly and stuff, and turn it into a series. But certainly, I would see Steinbach dominating and coming out of there for sure.
No doubt. That's one of the matchups in the East. The other one is the 2W teams, the Winkler Flyers taking on the Winnipeg Blues. The Winkler Flyers, Svensson had the top scoring, but right behind them were a couple of Blues players. So, there's going to be a lot of high offense, high octane in this series. I think it's not going to finish in 5. In the West, you have Dauphin taking on Swan Valley, and then Waiwai-Sakapo taking on the Oil Caps out of Verdun. So, some really good. I think the NJ, if you had to look at the idea of strengths and weaknesses, I think this is the most even set of games coming out of round 1 for me personally.
Yeah, no, I think there's lots of parity there. And I was talking to one of my good buddies here on Sunday. We went out to a junior B game and took a look at it. And his son plays in Dauphin. So we were kind of talking about the playoffs and what his views were. And of course, Dauphin's got a good team there. And I would see them taking out Swan Valley. But the one that surprised me, in his opinion, is he says, watch out for Verdun. He says they came on strong, and he still thinks that Verdun can come out of that side of the conference and surprise a lot of people. So I'm interested in following that because, I honestly haven't followed Verdun that closely this year. But just to hear his comment on that, has got me interested, and I want to see what happens there.
Absolutely. Waiwai-Sakapo had a tremendous second half of the season, did extremely well, and Dauphin's been that team that's up there the whole time. They've been there from start to finish in the first, second spot, working against Waiwai-Sakapo. So it's going to be a good tilt out of the West, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the 3 divisions, but it's not just 3 divisions that are vying for a championship. That's their local championships. But we had great news today from Hockey Canada as well as the Centennial Cup that's being held in Estevan starting May 19th. It's a little bit different format for 1 year only. 9 championship teams and the host team. A little bit different setup. 4 on one side, 5 on the other, but they all come together in Estevan. Yeah. What's your thoughts on how this format's going to look, Wayne?
I think it's going to be a fantastic event and, a great place to have it. Estevan's got a fabulous arena there. I think it holds around 3,000 people. So, if you think about bringing in 9 out-of-town teams that, travel with their own fans type thing and the families and stuff like that, that's going to bring a lot of people into town. That's going to have a good economic spin-off in the Estevan community and stuff, and going to probably be some great parties and, few good lounges and stuff like that will be happening and buzzing and stuff. But, I really like the idea. Like, why eliminate some of these teams? Bring them in from all the different parts of Canada. Let fans see some different teams play some different teams. We all get tired of seeing the same matchups, and especially, in COVID the past few years. And, particularly I think it was in the Manitoba League where they had the little pods where you played the same teams over and over again. So it's great to see some new teams. Going to be lots of new fans in town, like I say. So that's going to make for some excitement. And so there's a team from Alberta playing a team from the Maritimes, and a team from Saskatchewan playing an Ontario team or a Quebec team or something like that, right? It's going to be, make for some very interesting games. And I think it's going to be really interesting to stand back and just see how the leagues stack up, right? So the winner out of League A versus the winner of League B, just to see, is it close, is it a blowout, or whatever. And you just can't decide on a 1-game matchup, but certainly will give people an idea of the strengths of the individual leagues.
I'm assuming that should Estevan win the championship of the SJ, it'll be the runner-up team that will also be included in the Centennial celebration come May.
Yeah, yeah. So there will be 2 teams out of Saskatchewan. So I mean, that's going to be great for local fans that whatever team does join Estevan, and odds on favorite is going to be Humboldt and stuff. I mean, they're going to travel well with their fans. So I think it's going to be a great week in Estevan, and I think they're going to create a lot of excitement. And heck, I'd like to get down there for a game or two and have a couple cold ones and catch some games too.
Maybe we'll have to rendezvous together, see if we can get some scalpers to give us some tickets for the day. What do you think, Wayne?
Sounds good. I look forward to that.
I think we know some people, don't we?
I think we might have the odd connection or two.
The odd connection. That Centennial Cup, all things said, should begin May 19th. And obviously, because they went to this format for this year to see, because there was so much difference in terms of each division, each hockey program provincially not finishing at the same time, and whether or not they could fill in and have further competition and further championships. So this was a good way, like you said, to include the 9 winners, open up it a little bit. Doesn't really make the tournament that much longer. It's just we get to see the championship side of each province respectively in Saskatchewan. So it should be a good tilt nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So you're taking Estevan and you're taking Humboldt as being the favorites out of Saskatchewan, or are you taking somebody else?
No, I have to go with those 2. I mean, they finished so far ahead of the rest of the league, and they were the dominant team. So, I have to bet the smart money, right? I'm not going to take a long shot. I'm going to go with them for sure in Saskatchewan.
Real quick, out of Alberta, who do you like coming out?
Well, I mean, Brooks. I mean, how can you go against Brooks? I mean, they load up every year with players from across Canada and the USA, and so it's going to be pretty hard to beat them.
I'm going to say for the Manitoba thing, I would really like to see Weiwei Sikapo come out of there. Yeah. I don't know why I'm saying that. I just have a feeling that they're the hot team, and I think them and Steinbach will be in the finals, and hope to see one of those 2 teams later on in May. Wayne Kosior on Wayne's World Part 1. Thanks for joining me. As always, a great discussion, and I'm sure we'll have more of those coming up next week as well. Maybe we'll dive into see if there's any more upsets in the brew when it comes to playoff time.
Sounds great. Look forward to it, Theo. Have a great week.
We'll be back with Kyle Nixon, U15 coach with Pilot Mound, after the break. Stay with us here on the ice as we continue our discussion on all things hockey here in the West.
Welcome to Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mound Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Joining me now from Pilot Mound, Kyle Nixon, the U15 head coach. Kyle, good evening. Thanks for taking me some time today. How are things still in Pilot Mound?
Good, yeah. It's been busy the last little while, but we wrapped up there last week with our trip to BC, so things are slowing down a little bit, which is kind of nice.
Are you looking forward to spring break?
Yeah, it'll be nice to take a little breather from what's been a really busy schedule, like I said, and some time away from school and give the kids a chance to get home. I think is important.
Fabulous. Let's talk quickly about the CSHL weekend that took place a couple weekends back. We were one of the first divisions to kind of go to Penticton because the U17s were later on. 3 games, all really close games. That first one against West Van, did they come out and surprise you guys a little bit? Because that was a team that you guys had defeated previously, correct?
Yeah, it was a good hockey game. I mean, we were kind of getting our legs underneath us, I guess, a little bit after a couple of days on a bus, and we played quite late for us at 8:30 BC time. So not to make any excuses or anything like that, but it did take almost a period for us to kind of get going, and we had some chances, and were able to score on it, and we tied it up late and ended up losing a shootout. So obviously one we maybe would have liked to win to get started off on the right foot, but we played more good parts of the game than bad, so it wasn't too bad.
Second game against St. George's, again, very close game, but it was a little bit higher scoring, a 6-5 loss. What was there? Was their legs better in that second game? Was it just a better team you were playing?
Yeah, a little better competition for us. The part of the draw we were in was the consolation side, which there's really no easy games when you're playing in the U15 prep league. And for us to play teams that are maybe a little bit more in our area of the league, I think was ultimately a good thing. St. George is a team we played in Calgary at the showcase in the fall earlier in the season, and they kind of gave it to us a little bit. So we played significantly better than we did at that point. Obviously, we've improved quite a bit since then. We tied it late, and we had a little bit of penalty trouble, and they ended up scoring on a power play with about 30 seconds left to beat us. So bit of a heartbreaker, but to be competitive and have an opportunity to win, there's a lot of value in that.
Last game of the series was against Prairie, but that ended up being on a good side, a 4-1 victory.
Yeah, we've kind of had a little rivalry with those guys throughout the year. They're, again, sort of in our part of the league where we're competitive and have had close games with them all season long. We went to their tournament and they beat us, and we went to Prairie the weekend before we went to BC to finish out our regular season schedule, and we split those games. So to play them at the end of the weekend was a team we had some familiarity with, and we had a big third period, and it was nice to come home with a win.
Coming home, a little bit of not resentment, but what was the take home for you in your first experience with playoff action in the CSSHL, and what do you think the boys enjoyed most about that weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the experience, I think, was on just what hockey can offer. The facilities there are unbelievable. It's one of the original hockey academies, the OHA in Penticton. So for us, arenas, we were able to watch the top teams in our league too play some of their semifinals and finals. So to see kids that are the same age as our guys, but some of those guys are quite talented. So for our guys to kind of see where the bar is at and how good some of the guys are that we competed against all year, to watch that, I think was pretty neat. And just to be out in Penticton, be on a bus and go through the mountains, all those little things that maybe kids 13 and 14 years old don't all get to experience was a lot of fun and pretty positive for our team.
And for yourself, what did you enjoy most about the weekend?
I think it was just a neat experience for me, just seeing how much exposure teams from all levels of the CSSHL get. Once we got there and the girls were kind of finishing up their playoffs, so we got a chance to see some of the top girls across Canada play. We watched a few of those games. For us to compete in the championships and be around a lot of other teams, I think was a cool experience, just to make some connections with coaches and to see what some of the other programs do, and some of the ups and downs that they've had throughout the year was pretty eye-opening for me in a lot of ways. And yeah, just something to build on as we continue to grow our program here about now.
Hockey is certainly not over for the U15 crew. Just this past weekend, you had a home-and-home series with the Southwest Cougars. A little bit of a letdown on both games, just unable to get the W's. But what was the take-home from these last couple of games you played against the Cougars?
Yeah, we set that up quite a while ago, and I knew that it was going to be after our week in BC and playing some games that we were excited for. So I also thought that if we could play a few more exhibition games prior to spring break, and we had at least a day where we could practice after being on the bus for a couple of days, I think was important. So we were maybe a little sluggish, and kind of took a while to get back into a competitive situation after a few days on the road. But we played pretty well in Southwest and competed, and just couldn't really find the back of the net and gave up maybe a few more than we would have liked to. And the second half of the game in Pilot Mound, we added a penalty shot and opportunities to tie it late. So they're a team that we've played a few times throughout the year, not since the start of the season. So to have a couple of competitive games against the AAA team in Manitoba, I think also was good for our guys as we head into our break.
Going into the break, still a couple of practices left, but coming back in April, hockey's not over for this group of young men. As I looked at the schedule, Kyle, there is a weekend, the Easter weekend, where you plan to head south of the border. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, for kids our age, a lot of them are involved in Directors Cup evaluations, and the 2009s have junior camps and identification camps to go to, and a lot of different skates that they've kind of set up outside of what our academy offers. So for us to stay on the ice and continue to work through some of the skill development that we offer, to provide them games in April in Minneapolis. We're going to one more tournament start of May in Calgary to play against some spring teams and kind of see what that competition looks like. I think it'll be good for us to have a bit of a spring season and give guys at this age a chance to continue to get better.
That's fantastic, knowing that this schedule allows and permits kids to keep playing in April and May when you think that ice should be out of the rink. Have they expressed any thanks and enjoyment over the fact that their season isn't quite over yet and they still have something to prove?
Yeah, I think they're excited to continue to play. Like I said, we've been really busy on the road. We were in Carenport for a showcase, and then Carenport to finish our regular season, and then in BC for what turned out to be a week and playing 3 games in 3 days. So I think they do. Even these kids at this age that never seem to run out of energy, I think are starting to, the gas tanks are maybe getting a little bit low. So to kind of recharge, but then come back and have something to look forward to where we're going to keep playing games is real important for them, and maybe keep them motivated and focused on hockey for a little bit longer while we have the ice here in Pilot Mound and continue to skate. And I think if we practice and we know we're going to play games, it puts a little bit more value on that practice time.
Will practices change in terms of focus, in terms of demeanor when you get back from spring break, or will it pretty much be the same type of practice? Will you try and maybe experiment with a couple of things, knowing that these tournaments are tournaments and showcases and working against development camp teams versus being league play?
I think our mentality in practice has always been a combination of individual skill development and then trying to teach how those skills can be incorporated into games. So I think that's going to be consistent for us over the next couple of months. We're able to spend a lot of time on the ice, which is great. And I think to continue to focus on how they can become better players in game scenarios by using some of these skills. I mean, that's been our mentality all year, so I don't think we're going to change that. Our guys have been put into different situations, whether it's special teams or we've mixed the lines around. We didn't set the lineup at the start of the year and keep it the exact same for 8 months or whatever it's been. So we'll continue to offer kids different opportunities, and that's kind of what we've been doing all year. So not a huge change in what our mindset is.
Last question before I let you get out of here, Kyle. Any specific instructions for the boys during spring break? Do they have any tasks that they have to do, stay away from coach's orders?
No, I didn't really give them much of a to-do list or things that they shouldn't be doing. I think it'll be nice for them to spend some time with their families and get away from the, not that it's a grind, but it does turn into a lot at times. So I think it'll be nice for them to have a break from being hockey every single day. Even if you love it, I think it's important to have opportunities to get away from it. And then when you come back, hopefully you're excited to be back on the ice. So that's what we're hoping for when kids come back after spring break, a couple of months of hockey, the home stretch to summer and the end of the school year. So it's been a quick year. It's been a lot of improvement, but it's been a lot more positive than anything negative.
How about coach's order for yourself over the break?
I think I need a little bit of a break too. And it'll be nice to have some holidays. And I'm actually going to head to Alberta for a couple of days and going to watch a Flames game and watch the Oilers play with a couple of buddies I have out there. So still kind of hockey, but I think that'll be a lot of fun too.
Do you sport the Jets jersey when you go there? Or do you have a favorite Oilers jersey you put on?
No, I think I'll maybe hop on bandwagon to bandwagon, but I don't think I'll be repping any jerseys while I'm up there.
Right on, Kyle. Well, I hope you enjoy your spring break. I know tremendous amount of hockey's been played, but a lot of great lessons and wonderful stories in your first year with Pilot Mound, as well as for these gentlemen playing in CSSHL action. Thanks for joining me tonight on the ice. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Theo.
Have a great rest of the break, and we'll talk to you after in April.
Perfect. That sounds good.
That was Kyle Nixon, U15 head coach with the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. I'd like to thank all our sponsors once again: Dokes Book Fuels, Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, Case Financial Group, and Toby Hockey. We'll be back Thursday at 6 o'clock, where we've got a trio of individuals currently playing in the GTHL playoffs from the Thunder Bay Kings, the U18 AAA program. Wade will be with me at 6 o'clock for an episode of On the Ice, bringing more goodness to the greatness here on ASTV. Find us on our Roku and our Apple TV, as well as YouTube. Search ASTV Productions, find the On the Ice button, and enjoy all of our archive shows. Tonight's show will be there as well. So appreciate it all. Thanks for supporting, and thanks for watching here on ASTV. Have a great rest of the evening. We'll see you on Thursday. Take care of yourselves and take care of your neighbors, and have a wonderful rest of the evening. Bye-bye for now.